Good morning to the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Mark Schaffner.
I'm Richard Beach.
Richard's sitting in for Pete, and who is probably in the airport on his way to Europe right now. I think we're starting our 100th episode about like we started the first episode.
That's right, Mark.
Don't be surprised, guys, if we end up with a little bit of technical difficulties. It's been not as easy as it is normally to get things started.
We're having a little bit of an issue with our software system, so we're not going live. It doesn't appear on our main channel right now, so we're working on getting that sorted out as we speak.
So, I'm gonna call an audible here because of that. We'll start by talking just a little bit about the background that we have.
Yeah.
And once we know we're live on our main channel, we'll get into some of the main things that we have going for the episode. We decided to not go AI this time.
That's right.
First time in quite a few weeks that we haven't gone AI. This photo is a little bit more of a theme of what it is that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
Looks like we've got here a production line, and from the Tesla logos on the back of the cars, this is one of our Tesla production lines.
That's right. I believe this is Giga Berlin producing some, what seems to be, is that a Model S? Yeah, there's a Model S's. We have a lot of talk today with Tesla as well as far as production is concerned. We got several companies, Rivian, Lucid, Tesla, and we're going to sprinkle in a little Canoe in there for you guys as well.
Yes, by all means, we certainly will. So I want to, it's appropriate for you to be back for our 100th episode, Richard.
Yeah.
Considering that you were here at the beginning, you and Jesse were here as well as Pete. I'm glad to have you sitting to my right here and co-hosting with me today while we fill in for Pete.
Well, I appreciate that a lot, Mark. It definitely feels right. It feels good to be back in front of the camera, and we couldn't have planned the 100th episode better.
Yeah,
guys, we need to stop here. We need to restart. We just went live, and everybody on the main channel is now joining in.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show.
Glad to have you here. This is our 100th episode. I'm Mark Schaffner,
and I'm
your
Richard
host
Beach.
Today. This is Richard. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty getting started. I think it's not unlike some of the stuff we had in our first episode. So, one of the things we wanted to really start out with on our 100th episode, though, for everybody is just a thank you and shout out to a few of the many, many users that really make this show work.
That's right. Every time you guys come in, so I'm usually running the comments. So I'll throw you guys' comments up on the screen. We notice who shows up over and over again. And, I don't think we have an opportunity often enough to thank you guys for showing up consistently and in the way that you guys do. I think that one of the biggest changes we've noticed as a team from day one to now is, rather than this being a news-centric show where it's really we just kind of list off articles and talk about the facts and all that good stuff, you guys get to decide how the show goes. You guys are a huge part of what we do here. You guys make the show what it is, and we want to just say thank you by recognizing just a few of you. And this isn't everybody, but yeah, we've got a list.
By all means, I'll start going through some of the lists. We've got My Melt, who's commented. We saw some of his first comments on episode 1. Niles from the Bion Danish Genome Institute. Van Goat. George from the Watch Rich Rebuilds channel. Always love saying that for George.
Yep.
One of these days, maybe Rich Benoit and we will be able to connect together. I know we've been trying that for a long time too. Nolver 53. He famously likes to call him Nolvers 53 because the S and the 5 are so similar. Michael Aldea, Bill Wood. We've got Jiminy Stack. Trucker Alistair, love having him come in from wherever he's at in the country, either in the U.S. or Canada. Ryan comes in. How about some others?
Yeah, we've also got Anwar on Instagram who consistently joins us. He's in Kuwait.
That's right.
He always joins in and says, "Good morning, my friend Richard Beach. How are you?" And it always brightens my day when he joins us.
And Lightning Rod likes to come in from Canada. In fact, Lightning Rod has our first comment of the episode, 100th.
That's right.
Thank you, Lightning Rod, for being on as often as you are. Thomas Curtis, Kia Ora Thomas.
That's right, Kia Ora. I forgot he's our friend in New Zealand.
He is. And one other I can think of off the top of my head, Crunch to Grace Hopper. You know what, guys? Smash that thumb.
That's right. Smash that like button.
And Seth Love says, I'm here on YouTube as well. So we've got a great show for you. Again, for the people that have just joined, because we had a little bit of technical difficulty on getting our YouTube up and running. Tell us a little bit about the background that we've got, Richard.
Sure. And I did want to say really quick, my Melt is here as well. He was on our first episode, and he's here on the 100th.
We don't
sweet.
gotta remember Smuggler over there holding down
Smuggler.
TikTok.
Oh my gosh, how did we forget Smuggler?
TikTok is our one of our largest audiences. Those guys come in and out all the time. We finally got them seeing the background image, all that too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Smuggler couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, 100% Smuggler. You are one of the most consistent people that shows up every single time.
Love having you there.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the background. I believe this is Giga Berlin. Don't quote me. So we've got a themed background today for you. We thought we would deviate from the normal AI generated images, as great as they are. We noticed that we have a lot of production topics today.
Yeah.
We've got a lot. What are some of the companies?
Well, we've got production topics going on with Canoe, with Lucid. We've got some stuff talked about with Rivian. We even have, of course, we're going to throw some Tesla Cybertruck stuff in the mix.
Yeah, we kind of have to.
Kind of have to. Yeah, definitely kind of have to. And so now tell me, what are some of the differences that you see here on the 100th episode versus the first one?
Well, I think there's more cameras. We've got a lot more going on here. The studio, and I think one of these days we need to give you guys a sneak peek or a peek behind the scenes to show what the production looks like. So when we started out, I mean, you guys see me looking over here.
Yeah.
The behind the scenes stuff is so completely different. We've upgraded our equipment. These mics are totally different. What were we using before? The Yeti mics?
I think you're using a couple of Yeti mics and a couple of booms. They were $70, seemingly good, but for amateurs more than for the what we wanted to do with our podcast here.
Yeah, so audio quality is up, video quality is up. The topics and the flow of these shows is just continued to improve. I mean, I'm one of those mushy feely kind of guys, and my favorite thing that I've noticed really is the rapport that we've been able to build with the audience.
Oh yeah, one of the biggest things I've noticed, you have a beard now.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Is that where you were leading this?
Yeah. No,
yes, and
not necessarily, but
yeah.
Well, let's get into some of the news topics today.
Real quick, we do have a picture of the first morning show.
Oh, you do? I didn't know that. Okay.
The picture I was showing you earlier, I did throw in the drive here, so we're gonna try to pull that up for you guys, just to show. The background is completely different, right? We went from the soundproofing pads to green screen, to more involve you guys, and one of us grew a little bit of a hair in our face.
Yes, just a little bit. But the one thing that has been consistent, sunglasses.
That's right.
You gotta. We'll announce someday, but not. We're not announcing while Pete's gone. Nope. That's for sure.
That's right. That's right. There is the style of sunglasses may change, but they will remain.
That's right. The sunglasses will remain. So thank you, Jesse. Our first, the first thing we want to touch on today has to do with Lucid. We heard yesterday that Lucid announced the deliveries for Q2, and it was frankly really underwhelming.
Yeah.
Lucid stock is down after announcing that it missed Wall Street expectations on car deliveries in Q2. Lucid delivered 1,404 cars in the April through June 30th quarter. That's actually down from Q1, where they did 1,406 cars. This is calling into doubt Lucid's ability to even deliver the 10,000 cars in 2023 that they thought they were going to deliver. Lucid's struggles are contrasting some with some of its rivals. Rivian, Ford, GM, and Tesla are all meeting or exceeding their production and delivery targets right now, however high or low they may be. For example, I think Tesla delivered about just under 470,000 cars in the second quarter. However, Lucid has announced that they begin shipping their cars to Saudi Arabia, and they have a deal to deliver 100,000 of these vehicles to the Saudi Arabian government. So that's not an insignificant thing. That's actually pretty big news for them. And they also intend to build a factory in Saudi Arabia to build their electric vehicles. When completed, that factory is going to be able to churn out 155,000 cars a year.
Wow.
That's a massive, massive factory. On another positive note, Lucid also announced, kind of buried in the news lines, they've entered into a partnership with Aston Martin.
Okay.
Lucid's going to provide licensing and technology to Aston Martin while Aston Martin produces their own EVs. So, I get the sense that the clock is starting to tick on Lucid a little bit.
Think so?
I do. They are trying to go through the pains of growing a company, and they say, "Hey, we're going to deliver more next quarter." Well, we didn't. Well, maybe next quarter we'll deliver more. Well, they didn't. So at some point, people are going to stop talking about Lucid, and it's going to lose relevance. The Saudis aren't going anywhere, though. I am the PIF fund, that Saudi investment fund that's poured billions of dollars into Lucid already. I don't think they're going to stop.
I had a thought on that.
Yeah.
So with, and I don't know how this has worked in the past with car companies, but pre-orders and these types of investments, to my knowledge, are a new thing for the car and automotive industry, and a first, starting with the EVs. And I understand that the pressure behind a company floating or dying is producing a good that people want to purchase. Having these backed up investments, do you think that's taking a fire out from under them and not pushing them to complete the goals that they're promising to complete because they know it's not do or die?
I think that might be part of it. I mean, you look at Tesla on two different occasions. You've had Tesla and Elon Musk come back and say, we were weeks, or in the case of the Model 3, we were 3 days away from bankruptcy. On the Model 3, he says, yeah, at the end of 2018, man, it was Tuesday, and I didn't think we were going to make payroll Friday. And that led a certain level of urgency to Tesla that I'm not sure if Lucid has right now, or maybe they do have the sense of urgency. I don't know.
That's interesting comparison there, because I mean, the hottest fire makes the purest gold, right?
Yeah.
With Tesla, I mean, that is the gold standard. And I'm sure there are many variables that went into making Tesla what it is today. We're just seeing one missing variable, and that's do or die. So it could be that, it could not be. As with regard to the numbers, though, I think we are getting kind of spoiled with the success rate of electric vehicles, right? We see Ford, GM, Tesla, all these other companies, Rivian, with everything going on, they're all exceeding our expectations. And has that become the new standard? And so when somebody not only doesn't meet those expectations, but falls below it, is even worse now.
I think that's a possibility. I've seen the Lucids here in town. It is probably the most beautiful car I have ever seen. I would love to sit in one. I would love to drive one. But the fact of the matter is, I have no interest whatsoever in buying one because it's too expensive.
Sarzar also has the same thought as you, almost verbatim. I've seen a Lucid outside Chicago suburbs. Beautiful car. Expensive, though.
Yeah, you know what, Sar? I agree. If I could get one for less than the 90 to 160,000, I probably would consider it really seriously, even though I'm not a sedan type of guy. On the other hand, Lucid is, they're talking about the Gravity coming out. And when that SUV comes out, they're also talking about the starting price potentially being inside the federal $7,500 tax credit level.
That's right. And forgive me if I'm wrong. I've heard talk of a $50,000 Lucid. Is that the same as the Gravity?
I don't think that's the same as the Gravity.
Okay.
It is something that they've announced, and the name escapes me right off the top of my head. But it would be the car that would come just after the Gravity and would be more like a Model 3 for the masses type of car.
Got you. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, it looks like the Gravity is set to start around $100,000. So maybe they'll be able to get that within the discounted range, but I guess we'll just have to see.
We'll have to see. It's the one thing about the SUV that's different than the cars too, though. If you buy a GMC Yukon, if you buy, for goodness sakes, if you buy a Chevy Tahoe, especially if you buy a Cadillac Escalade, the Ford Expedition, all these large SUVs like this that are gas guzzlers are also between $80,000 and $160,000. So if Lucid's coming in with a $100,000 SUV, the market that they're going to, if that SUV is like a big full-size SUV, it's going to be a market that's used to that price. That might be a good thing for Lucid.
That might be. That's
Mark,
a good point.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, Jesse.
This is a financial question. I'm not sure if there's really a good answer or not, but why is the tax credit set at certain brackets? Why does it matter how expensive the car is? Is there a reason that the government would set it that way, or do you have any insight on that?
My opinion is it's because of our Democratic administration. They wanted the tax credit set lower to help the cars be more affordable so that more people would be able to buy them. If it had been a more conservative or Republican administration, if they would have kept the tax credits at all, and that is a question, I think they would have tended to leave the limit higher. But the reason I say that politics is mixed in is that typically it's your higher income earners who the Democrats would say don't need the credit, would be then taking that credit.
That makes sense.
So,
gotcha. Okay.
It looks like Milan Lempivic.
We don't have Pete to pronounce these last names
I
anymore.
know.
That's another regular on Facebook, though.
Okay.
Welcome in.
So Milan, thank you so much for joining us. Love having you on the show. He says he loves our work.
That's awesome.
And we're the ones that get the struggle with all the European pronunciations.
Oh, yeah.
Pete is the expert at those.
Mm-hmm.
On YouTube, the Alternative Energy Group, Etoy Royal, and I'm sure
not just
I butchered
European.
that.
Yeah.
That's New Zealand. He says Kia Orla from Atoriria, and he's on YouTube. Thank you again for joining us.
Eora.
Hey, Mark.
Yes, Aaron.
Can I ask you a question regards to Lucid?
Yeah, absolutely.
When is, I believe the CEO of Lucid is Peter Rawlinson.
That's right.
When is he going to be on the hot seat?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, Peter Rawlinson tries so hard to be the anti-Elon Musk. Elon is gregarious and he's out there and he's just rumored to be difficult to work with and so on. And Peter tries to be the exact opposite of that. He's the engineer type. At the same time, while I don't know a good answer to your question, I think as long as Lucid is moving forward with their engineering feats, that they're going to be fine with him as the CEO. But at some point, the engineering side of the business is going to get to a critical mass where there's just not that much return on that investment. And if sales are not there at that point, I think they would change direction and move to somebody who is going to help push sales more.
Yeah, it just feels like this Aston Martin deal is kind of like a Hail Mary, like almost passing off the luxury side to them while they maybe try to get something more affordable in their line. I just, it kind of feels like maybe he's trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat to maybe, save himself in that seat.
Yeah, there's that possibility. You know, I could see a universe where 5 years from now, Lucid is a parts manufacturer and not a car company. Because they're so superior technologically. Even Sandy Munro, when he did the teardown of that 3-phase motor, said, I've never seen anything engineered as beautifully as this.
He's oohing and awing all over the place.
Yeah, it was incredible how much an engineer like Sandy Munro was just fanboying almost over that motor. But having the best motor is kind of like Sony back in the 80s having the Betamax when VHS by JVC was taking the world by storm.
Well, hopefully we see some beautiful Aston Martins with some powerful Lucid motors in them. I think that combination would just be out of this world.
I think so as well.
These incredible, unique names keep coming in for you guys.
Perfect. We've got practice. It's Rajiv Vijayakumar. Forgive me. Congratulations on your 100th episode. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Rajiv, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
I should have.
You should have. I'm going to. Thank you so much. Glad that you're joining. We encourage you guys, when you give us the comments and say hi or ask questions, tell us where you're from as well. We love hearing where in the world you're coming from. And that's how we know that we've had people from, Pakistan, and Kuwait, and New Zealand, and all across Europe.
We had one from Nigeria. That was, we had people from all over the place.
Yeah,
and
we really have.
Ivory Coast, of course, all over Europe. People all the time.
Yep. So, next article that we have, this one has to deal with the Cybertruck. If I think if you wanted to pull up, Jesse, one of those Cybertruck photos. Do you guys remember? I think it's about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we were talking about Tesla was going to have a drive, and they were going to go from Carlsbad to the Peterson Museum. And then and Franz von Holzhausen was going to lead that drive. Over that weekend, and I think it was the last weekend in June before the July 4th holiday, Franz von Holzhausen had the drive. Everybody who came up got to see a sneak peek of the Cybertruck, sit in the cab, take pictures. It really made the news. It was surprising, and it was considered quite the event.
So do you want the camo or do you want the leaked images?
Let's do the leaked images first.
So the leaked images is going to be the Cybertruck frame.
Okay.
Not the interior.
Okay. And I will pull up some of this stuff as well.
Yeah. And if you guys forgive me, I need to hop out of the seat for 1 second. This computer keeps turning off, so I need to make sure it's plugged in.
So we've got the leaked images there, and then if you want to look at interior one, these are some of the pictures that were taken pretty close to the time as the Peterson Museum was there. More recently, while Jesse's pulling up Cybertruck Interior 1, Elon Musk, I think, is trying to keep the Cybertruck in the news as well. He was talking about one of the more recent sightings of the Cybertruck. And in this case, it was a Cybertruck with camouflage. And so, Jesse, if you could pull up that Cybertruck with camouflage, we thought there were some pretty interesting pictures taken of the camouflage Cybertruck. Elon's comment actually on Twitter was that it was practically invisible. Now, I really think if you look carefully at this picture, you might be able to find it hiding behind a tree.
It's like a Where's Waldo Cybertruck edition.
Yeah.
That's a nice, I don't know, you think that's a wrap or paint or what?
I don't know. I think it's probably a wrap of some sort. But I honestly think that the Cybertruck, in spite of what Jim Farley said a couple weeks ago, I think the Cybertruck has the potential to be big.
Absolutely. I mean, they have 1.5 million pre-orders.
That's right.
This is going to be massive. I mean, let's say, and Jesse, you're a numbers guy. What do you think would be the likely percentage of people within that 1.5 that drop the reservation?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's going to be high. The problem, the more serious problem is, with all the different gigafactories making anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 cars, I think a week maybe, or is that a month? I'm not sure. But they're going to need to seriously ramp up their production because they have over 1.5 million people waiting. So that's a serious number of pre-orders to get through. That might be the cause of people dropping more than them just changing their mind or not having the money or any of those other reasons.
100%. Yeah. I mean, like if we're being honest, instant gratification is a massive thing.
Oh yeah.
Right. And when we come to cars or any kind of vehicles, people really, really get excited about them. And I'm not usually a very patient man. And if I were waiting on something like a Cybertruck, I would be extremely impatient. But even if 10% of the people with those reservations dropped it, that's 150,000 people.
Yeah.
Right. That drop it. And you're still sitting at 1.35 million.
Yeah.
Right. People sticking it through. There's no way this isn't going to be a competitor.
Well, and I think the investors tend to agree with you there. Not only a couple weeks ago, Sam Corris and Kathy Wood from ARK Investment Management believe that it could be as ubiquitous as the Model Y in a couple of years. Jesse, they're talking about 5,000 vehicles a week coming out of these gigafactories, although the Mexico gigafactory, which is one of the ones where the truck may end up being made, is going to have higher capabilities than that.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. It says this is from Electrek from a few months ago, so it might be updated. But Giga Texas, for example, is supposed to do 250,000 vehicles per year. Now that's vehicles per year, so that's you have to factor in all the different models though as well. So that wouldn't be 250,000 Cybertrucks, right? So.
Yeah, Giga Texas is being largely reconfigured to go almost exclusively Cybertruck, I think. And then the Model 3, the Model Y, the potential of the new Model 2, those are all going to end up going down into the New Mexico Gigafactory that's being built down in, I think it's Monterrey, Mexico. There are a lot of investor analysts as well that are saying the same type of thing as Kathy Wood and Sam Corris. They're saying, hey, those people who are shorting Tesla, they have a blind spot here. Tesla could be opening up a whole new market of people who are not interested in a sedan or a hatchback, but are interested in an SUV or a pickup truck. Yeah,
that's right. It still blows me away that people are shorting Tesla. It doesn't, I mean, amen. I worked in investments for 5 years, right? I don't know everything in the world, but it just doesn't make sense to me. How can you bank on something as big as Tesla going under?
Right. Well, and as we've mentioned before, and Pete has mentioned, the fundamentals seem to be there in terms of capitalization, profitability, and capital spend. Microsoft is busy buying Activision, the gaming company, because it doesn't know what to do with its $70 to $100 billion in cash. Tesla knows exactly what to do with its billions of dollars in cash. It's building more factories, and it's going to further increase capacity. They've got this future goal of making 5 million cars a year. They know that they're not there now, and yet they seem to be utterly committed to meet that goal.
Absolutely. So what you're saying, Mark, is we're going to be seeing a Cybertruck rolling down the street any day now.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be any day, but
I'll keep hoping.
I still think come this fall we're going to start seeing Cybertrucks rolling down the street that
I'm excited.
People own. It was kind of like from our office, from our location, we're only about a mile away from that Rivian service center, and it's just such a cool thing to be headed to lunch and see a Rivian driving up the street.
Absolutely. I remember when it was, I remember the first time seeing one of those and how exciting that was. And now I see one every other day.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I've started to see the Rivian R1S, their SUV. I like it much better than the pickup truck.
I do too. It looks a little less, how do I say it? Funky?
Yeah.
A little less, it looks a little more put together.
Well, and it's still kind of boxy, but the pickup truck looks like it's way too much cabin with not nearly enough bed. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So on TikTok, Jason DeFoss says, great info, Jason for California. Thank you for Jason so much.
Jason from Canada.
Canada.
Yes. And he's also one of our frequent flyers on the show as well. So thank you, Jason, for tuning in again. At the beginning of the show, we had a list of people we thanked for showing up consistently for our 100th episode. So thank you.
Yes, and another one of the people that was on that list that we love seeing, Thomas Curtis is here from YouTube.
How's it going, Kia Ora?
So Kia Ora, and it says happy Matariki Day for Pleiades from Atoria.
He's our second audience member from that town.
Yeah, that's town in New Zealand. Yes. Okay. And you know what, Thomas? One of these days, I'm gonna go on to like dictionary.com or something like that, and I'm gonna learn how to pronounce that name.
Absolutely.
And I know you've given it to us once at least. You gave it to us phonetically. So, next article that we have on production has to do with Rivian. In fact, Amazon announced about a week and a half ago now that it's going to take its Rivian technology to Europe. If you remember, Amazon said probably a year or more ago that they wanted to buy a whole bunch of Rivian electric delivery vans. in here in the Phoenix area, you don't even have to look very hard, and you're starting to see the Rivian vans around a lot more. We've got this light bar that starts on the right side and goes all the way across, and then comes down the left side. And actually, they're actually pretty cool looking vans.
Absolutely. I think Max had a chance to go in and check one out. We had a TikTok.
Really, he did.
Yeah, we had a TikTok released. Oh my gosh, it was at least a couple months ago, and they were just starting out. I think at his apartment complex, he was walking around and he saw a Rivian van, kind of like we saw the not the Cyber, the Tesla Semi, and he just walked up and was like, "Hey, can I record this?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, sure." And he got up in it and recorded everything in it.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah,
that's very cool. Well, Amazon is going to be taking those vans to Europe.
Wow. Yeah.
So they're going to start by putting them in Germany.
Okay.
But eventually they're going to have these vans doing deliveries as electric vans all throughout Europe. And so Amazon has announced that it's going to spend almost $1.1 billion to electrify their delivery fleet in Europe.
My goodness, that is a lot of cash.
Yeah. So if any of you have been wondering why Rivian seems to have really popped in price over the last week plus, I think Rivian's up almost 30%.
Yeah, do you want that stock
announced.
photo up there?
Yeah, if you can get that. Rivian is up 10% in the last 5 days, and I think if you were to go up a month, you would see that it's up almost 30%. This is why. To me, this is a really cool thing for Rivian. In fact, I think this is the exact type of revenue niche that an automaker like Rivian needs to be able to continue to get that funding to move forward in their operation and eventually become profitable.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things I like the most about the current EV explosion is we're seeing all these big dog companies, Amazon, Walmart, right, that are getting next to these startups. Rivian, not much of a startup at this point, but still got next to them pretty early on. Whereas before, they would not have had a chance to survive against Ford or GM or BMW or whoever. Right now, they've got this different chance to really make something of themselves and come to the market as another automotive manufacturer.
Yeah, I tell you, the world today of automotive manufacturing is, it's so different than it was 15 years ago when Tesla was first coming out with the Roadster. The change is occurring. It is, it's kind of frightening for some people, but it's a really cool thing, I think.
I think there's nothing wrong with this. Before Tesla came in and started breaking up the monotony of manufacturing, everything was pretty much the same. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a Ford F-150 and a Chevy 1500, right? There was just no difference, right? Do you want a white pickup truck with this logo or a white pickup truck with this logo, or the sedans, the Ford Fusion versus Toyota Corolla? Who cares? There's
Ford versus Toyota versus Nissan versus Honda versus Chevy versus, they were almost all the same thing.
But now we have variety, which is wonderful.
So, Thomas has come back again with once again, thank you. Atera Rea is what it looks like. Is that what
OT Roa
or AT Roa, something like that? Yeah.
AT Roa.
This is the Maori name, yeah.
So that is the Maori name for New Zealand. It's not necessarily a town. Aotearoa. Okay, Thomas, thank you very much. I appreciate the comment, and I really appreciate the education.
I see, Jesse, Thomas had thrown up the pronunciation of that. Even in the pronunciation that was there, no idea how to pronounce some of that.
Why is there horseshoes in the name?
Good question.
That's a great question. Waymo is a vehicle driving service here in Phoenix, over in San Francisco, and they're known for their autonomous cars. Here in Phoenix, they've been making waves because they seem to have kind of gotten through some of their test phase and are starting to expand their area of service. So they cover roughly half of the Phoenix metro area now It's about 250 square miles that they cover now, where a year ago they were only covering like 50 square miles.
Mm-hmm.
But interesting information came out recently on Waymo and their monitoring of driving habits. You want to tell me more about that? You're the one that helped bring that article to me.
Absolutely. So, Waymo, if you're native to Phoenix or San Francisco, you've seen them driving around. You know, they're the Jaguars, or I think that's primarily what they use now, or the Chrysler Pacifica vans, with those spinning radar
Giant
sensors
things,
all
Yeah.
over the place, right? Hard to miss them.
I think
No.
they've even gone to 1 or 2 EV cars as well.
Yeah, I think they adopted the Jaguar
Pace, yeah,
I-Pace.
Yeah.
So myself, much like everybody else, for every time I saw one, I figured those sensors were just for the car to make sure that it navigates where it's supposed to be.
Sure.
Turns out it's handy for a whole heck of a lot more than just monitoring the vehicle itself. So it has been Waymo as a company, their whole identity, their whole hope and motivation for self-driving cars is to reduce the number of automotive fatalities on the road. And they want to do that by taking the human out of the mix, right? They did a study to prove that their drivers, their AI drivers or what have you, are safer than human drivers. So they released this study monitoring the speed, driving habits, mainly the speeding of the drivers around every single one of those cars. And to none of our surprise, here in Phoenix, they had some shocking numbers as far as how often and by what degree Phoenicians speed. I think the largest distance between the speed limit and the actual driving speed of a driver was in a 35. They were going 84.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's now I for a little while I've visited Texas. I've lived in I lived many years ago in the Dallas area for a little under a year, and I can attest there, as largely now in Arizona, speed limit signs in Texas, they were for target practice. You literally were as likely to see a sign that had what looked like shotgun pellets through it as you were to see a sign that was in good working order.
Wow.
And here in Phoenix, I think the signs are just a suggestion, because if the speed limit on the freeway is 65, most of the freeways around are 65, and I'm going 65, I'm getting people tailgating and flashing their lights at me and honking and cutting around me and brake checking me and all of those road rage, aggressive driver type things. If I'm going 75, I'm about middle of the road. There's more traffic passing me than there is traffic that I'm passing. If I try to keep up with the traffic flow, my wife starts yelling at me because I'm going between 85 and 90 miles an hour.
On a good day.
On a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wouldn't be too much of a problem if we had any sort of driving structure, fastest on the left, right? Slowest on the right, pass on the left. We don't do that here.
No.
You go wherever you want and you go as fast as you want. Some people that, hit the HOV lane or in the far left lane kind of get the idea that, I'm the fast lane. I need to go fast. But that is a slim minority.
It really is. We have a tremendous number of retirement people retirement age people who come and live in the Arizona area. And so you're as likely to have an 85 mile an hour person going on the rightmost lane of the freeway because they're trying to get around the two 65-year-old people that are going 55 miles an hour in the 65 zone in the middle and left lanes.
What are you
to
going do?
But at the same time, a car's driving down the road, and they're telling me that they're not telling me, but they could be telling the police I'm speeding.
Yeah. I mean, there's this wide-held mentality when it comes to Arizona drivers. They can't pull us all over. No, but it totally is crazy. I mean, when I rode motorcycles, for my safety, I go 5 above standing traffic, right? So if everybody's going 90, I'm going 95 because I need to be moving away from people, right? Not that I minded I love going fast, and
Sure.
especially on a motorcycle.
Sure.
But it's standard here. It doesn't feel off. You know, it's funny. I saw this video the other day of somebody who was visiting us in Phoenix, and they were recording driving down the I-10.
Mm-hmm.
And the caption was, "Why didn't anybody tell me Phoenix traffic was like this?" And to me, when I looked at it, I was like, this is completely normal. And then everybody in the comments was like, "Oh my gosh, Phoenix is crazy. Phoenix is crazy," because they were going 85 and a 55, and everybody was doing it.
Yeah. It's just what you do. You know, if it's a freeway, it's 65 to 75 miles an hour. I don't care what the speed limit sign says. That's what the traffic flow is.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, you're as likely as not to get pulled over for going 5 under the speed limit on a freeway, especially during rush hour, as you for unsafe driving, as you are to get pulled over for going 25 miles an hour over.
Absolutely. And it is unsafe to be going slower than traffic, which adds to the whole mix of, do I break the law by going above the speed limit, or do I endanger people around me by obeying it?
Right.
You know, and Waymo's whole thing is we need to get everybody on the same page when it comes to that. And they, again, know the lack of likelihood that humans are going to get on the same page on a subject such as this. And so they want to, again, take the driver out of the mix. Now, I have some concerns about that. I mean, driverless cars and all that autonomy, I'm not necessarily for that, not entirely. I can be convinced. I'll give it time. But the whole monitoring everybody's traffic habits, I can definitely see that as there's potential for, you know, I'm just curious as to how the police are going to respond to this.
Well, I mean, how far away are we from a policeman going by in a cruiser that now has these LiDAR radar things on them? And it doesn't matter if they're going 65 and you're going 85. Well, they come up behind you and pull you over because their radar, which is now a little spinning thing on the roof of the car, is saying that you're going 85 miles an hour. I just feel like there could be a lot of privacy issues. Here in Arizona, we used to have photo radar on the freeways. If you're going more than 9 miles an hour over the speed limit, you would get your picture taken. And I still remember times driving down the freeway where you're just like flash, 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 flash.
Wow.
And it was going crazy. So, yeah, I could see that. In fact, in San Francisco, I found a related article to the Waymo article here. There's a group of people in San Francisco that are very anti automated driving. And they learned that if they put a traffic cone on the hood of the car when the car is stopped, it confuses it. And when it's confused, it won't move forward.
Wow.
So your Waymo car goes up to a stoplight, and then some person runs out from the sidewalk with a traffic cone. They sit it on the hood of the car real quick and run off. And then that car just stays there because it doesn't know what to do.
I have to admit that's hysterical. I don't support that. I don't think you should block the flow of traffic regardless, you know, but that is hysterical.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So we've got a couple of comments that have come in. Bash A from TikTok, waving emoji. Thank you. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Thomas Curtis is back again. He says, what's your favorite electric hypercar?
You know, I saw the Draco at Concourse of the Hills. Concourse in the Hills? Car show, big car show here in Arizona. And I can't say how it drives or anything like that, but it was a gorgeous vehicle.
Only $2 million.
Only $2 million.
Well, you know.
And I'll start a GoFundMe. I'll do it.
And in 2,500 years, you'll get your $2 million.
That's right. What about you, Mark?
You remember that Lamborghini that we had on our podcast a little while ago? It was an EV concept car, and it had, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the actual model of it right off the top of my head. Supercar Blondie was in it. She had reviewed it, and they said this is concept. They had solar panels as part of the paint and the body panels.
Yep.
And I think so far of the supercars that I've seen, that gray car with the orange wheels and the classic Lamborghini look, that was probably my favorite supercar.
I think that might have been when I was out.
Okay. Oh, you've got to see that sometime.
Okay, I'll check it out as soon as we're done.
Yeah. So, Jesse, if you are able to find that Lamborghini
Talking
hypercar,
about the Terzo Millennio.
yes, that's it. That's the one.
Okay, I'll see if I can get a good picture.
If you can get a good picture of that and pull that up, that's I think that one's my favorite electric hypercar of all time.
Can't wait to see it. Now, it looks like Aaron, he's got his sunglasses on. That must mean he's got a favorite supercar he wants to talk about.
Does a Ford Lightning count?
Yeah, he's the truck guy. You gotta remember.
You know what, Aaron? I would count a Ford Lightning. I've heard that there might be Ford Lightnings that are going to be actually sitting on dealer lots within the next few months. I hope so, man. I hope so.
I like that Rimac or
I was about to
Rimac.
say, nobody mentioned the Navara.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
Rimac Navara. It's fastest. I think still the fastest car out there.
Yeah, that'd
I
probably be
think
my
so.
top one.
Yeah, I think so.
I'd like to hear the audiences too. If you guys have a favorite electric supercar, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, love to hear it.
Jesse, is that your favorite? Was the Navara?
I actually would prefer a Plaid over everything,
Ooh.
but I don't know if that qualifies.
Well, you know
Or you know what? Actually, the Sapphire, but I still don't think that qualifies as a hypercar either. But
Yeah.
well,
either one of those.
I mean, the Sapphire and Plaid are going up and beating Bugattis and stuff like that, so they're awfully
Very
close.
true.
That's right.
Is it too soon to pick the new Roadster? Especially if
Ooh,
they
there
have
you go.
that booster thing.
There you go.
Oh, if they have that booster, that is a game changer.
Yeah, it's that harkens back to the days of the muscle cars and putting nitrous oxide in the back of the car.
I feel like the new nitrous oxide is going to be, hey, I got the X1 software update. You want it?
Yeah. On Instagram, John Wick 2477 says hi, and so one of these days we do promise we will get Instagram up with the background picture, not the green screen. At some point, it'll. I think we're largely waiting on the people from Instagram for that one, though.
Yeah, their API isn't open to use Jesse language, and that prevents us from using a streaming software like Restream or what have you.
Sure.
Yeah, we're working on it though. I think we can go back to one of the ones we were using before. We just haven't got it up yet.
Yeah. One of these days, we'll get it. Another article that I wanted to talk about, and this one's more of a tips and tricks article for people. The heat is on here in Phoenix.
Yes, it is.
We're on, I believe it's day 15 of 110 plus. And for us, there's no end in sight. It's making national news. It might be making international news that we're going to have the longest and hottest heat wave that we've ever had. So there are a lot of places here in the world that are very hot here in the summertime. I've came across something that said 5 ways that you can help your EV to stay running smoothly in this incredible heat. So let me go through a couple of these.
Yeah, let's hear it.
some of them are really simple, like park in the shade.
Yep. I mean, that's here in Arizona, that's to avoid burns.
Yeah, you know what? Not only does it avoid burns, parking in the shade. The Arizona Republic ran a test in 2016, not EV cars, but just with their ICE vehicles. I think they were Chrysler minivans. They took a half a dozen Chrysler minivans and parked them in various places close to each other, like a mall parking lot or something. Half of them they put in the shade, half of them they left in the sun. The average ambient temperature in the cabin was 15 degrees cooler for the ones that were in the shade after an hour, and the temperature of the dash was a full 30 degrees cooler. The dash for the cars that were sitting in the sun was baking at a nice and toasty 185 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
And the dash in the shade was 155.
You know, that makes me want to bring a baking sheet and some cookie dough.
Oh yeah, we're going to have to try that.
We have to at this point.
We've got to try that. Parking in the shade puts a lot less load on the car when it goes to try to cool the cabin. I would add to this parking in the shade, and this is not something that's in the list of 5 tips. If you have a sunroof, crack that sunroof open just a little bit. If not, crack your windows open just a little bit. The heat will rise inside the cab of the car, and that hot air will escape through the top of the car, and will stay cooler inside the car as a result. Second tip: try to keep your EV battery not only at no more than 80 degrees, but see if you can, as you're driving, keep it up in that 50 to 60% minimum to 80% maximum.
Mm.
The main thing, of course, is when you're charging an EV battery, you're putting heat as well as energy into the battery. And if you're already really, really hot, then you're going to just exasperate the issue, slow down your charging rates, and it's much harder on the battery. It's even harder on EV batteries to just sit out in a parking lot at 90 degrees or 90 or 100% charge than it is for them to sit at an 80% charge. Again, it's because the battery chemistry is such that the extra heat causes problems.
Well, yeah, I mean, with basic chemistry, right? When you increase the heat, whatever chemical reaction is taking place naturally speeds up.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And that destructive chemical process that takes place when when a lithium-ion battery is getting overheated, it does take place if even if the car is sitting in a parking lot and that battery is charged between 90 and 100%, that chemical process is more likely to take hold inside the battery. So you wear your battery out over time if you keep it charged too high, even if it's just sitting out in the hot.
It's the same principle that says if your battery is warm, it's going to charge faster, appropriately warm, not like hot,
Yes.
right? Whereas, somebody in Canada during the winter, the battery needs to heat up first before it can charge
That's right.
because it needs to be able to engage that chemical process.
Yep. In fact, a lot of our listeners that live in northern climates know that plugging your car in does not make it charge automatically. Plugging your car in oftentimes causes the car to heat the battery up to a temperature where it can take a charge. And that may take 20 or 30 minutes, and then it starts taking a charge.
Wow.
So I have experience, though, driving in the heat. My wife and I love to go to California. For us, it's a short drive. It's 5-6 hours, or in a Tesla, even with the supercharging, we'll make a day out of it. We'll make it's about 7 or 7.5 hours for a couple of charges. We were on our way back from California, Catalina Island, a couple years back. Had a wonderful vacation. Stopped in the little town of Quartzsite. Now, this town is in Arizona, right near the Arizona-California border on the Colorado River. And when we stopped there, the temperature was 116 outside.
Wow.
So it was, and the Colorado River Basin, for those that are familiar with the desert Southwest, is one of the hottest areas of the desert Southwest. So if it's 110 in Phoenix, it's probably 115 to 120 in Quartzsite. We figured, yeah, we'll stop here, hang out for 15 minutes, maybe go to the Carl's Jr., because that's the parking lot that we're in, or maybe go around the block and go to the Burger King and come back. We did that, got our drinks, came back. The car was slow charging. The protection mechanisms, not only in the car and the car battery, but in the charger itself, as the car communicated with the supercharger, led the car to charge at only about 6 kilowatts an hour.
Oh my goodness.
And we were expecting to charge at about 75 kilowatts an hour because we had a 2012 and that was its maximum charge. We ended up being stuck there for an hour and a half.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of, yeah. So the third tip that we have is to use your AC kind of sparingly. And not just while you're in the car. A lot of your electric vehicles have the ability to keep the cabin cool while the car is parked. If you have the luxury of being able to plug your car in, do that. If you're walking into a car cabin that's 80 degrees, not only is it, of course, way more comfortable, but your car is going to be working a lot less to keep you cool than it was to make you cool. And when it works a lot less, your battery stays cooler, your battery works more efficiently, and you've actually been using the battery off the grid, or the electricity off the grid instead of from the battery to charge it.
That makes complete sense. It reminds me of the stories that Pete would tell of driving a Roadster in this heat, how the Roadster believes that the battery is more important than the person, which is valid for safety reasons, and it would take the AC and funnel it to the battery instead.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Do Model S's do the same thing?
They do.
Okay, that makes sense.
In fact, just this last week in our Model S, we have a 2017 white Model S that we drive now. And we had put some furniture in the back. It was lawn furniture. It had been sitting outside, so that would heat up the cabin a little bit too. But it was a hot day. It was the first of the really hot days. And the car decided that the battery was getting hot. So we drove home 30 miles from my son's house to my house. And by the end of the drive, we had no air conditioning in the car whatsoever. And we were just kind of dying a little bit.
Oh, I can imagine. I was I asked that question because I've been noticing that happen. You know, sometime I'll, you know, go out to my car and open the door, and it might have that cabin cooling going on, and I'm like, okay, this is nice. This is good. Drive away and it's all good. And then other times I'll come in and it's hot. And I'll crank the AC up and start going, and I feel it blowing hot air on me, and I'm like, why is this happening?
And that's exactly what's happening is the car will prioritize the battery over the human.
Valid. I'd rather be, you know, hot for a little bit and safe than cool for a bit and explode.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Not that they explode. I don't want to put that out there. That's not what happens.
No, but Victor, our general manager at Gruber Motors, and who will be my co-host next Wednesday on the Roadster podcast. A couple times this last week, I'll get texts from Victor. He's asking me a question. He's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm parked on the side of the road waiting for the Roadster that I'm driving to cool down enough for me to drive it." Because as you know, the Roadster goes from keeping you cool to keeping the battery cool to low power to no power. And what it's doing is when it gets to that no power mode, the power electronics module, or the PEM, is getting hot. You have to pull over, and it'll take whatever electricity it needs to run the air conditioning and the fans and cool the PEM down and cool the battery down. And eventually it'll say, okay, you can get in now. But in the meantime, you can sit outside and bake.
Wow.
So
that's rough.
Before we go on, it looks like we have a couple more questions.
We've got Heinrich Leisner says there is only one hypercar EV, and that's the Aspark Owl. And I actually pulled it up here.
Aspark Owl.
Yes. Now, Mark and I can see this. I don't think you guys will be able to see this unless Jesse pulls it up, but that is a beautiful looking car.
The Aspark Owl reminds me a little bit of one of those really, really super cool Hot Wheels cars that you used to get as a kid that was not really a brand of anything. But yeah, that's an amazing looking car.
I totally agree. You know, it was funny. I looked at this car and I thought, you know, that looks really familiar. And I was trying to figure out what brand it reminds me of. It's Koenigsegg, maybe. But now that you said Hot Wheels, yes, every time I go to Albertsons, I'm looking for EV Hot Wheels so we can add to our collection. And it does look like a Hot Wheels car. It's crazy.
It looks like a full-size Hot Wheels car. Yeah. So on Instagram, Electronics Curiosities says, "Hi guys," with a smiley face. Hi, glad to have you here. Again, for the people that are watching and have joined us more recently, Richard's the co-host today along with me. Pete is on his way to Europe with a well-deserved vacation for family. So we're holding the fort down for a little while.
Absolutely. Then we have Ali on Instagram. He says, "Hi, hello."
And I will leave it with Ali as well.
Yep.
Hi, glad to have you here. And Lightning Rod, when you're talking about the car batteries,
It exploded.
it exploded.
It exploded.
On TikTok, LM7721 said, yes, it could definitely. Don't be scared to put out the truth.
Well, the truth is that EV batteries don't explode. That's not how that works.
That's right. It's
One other one, guys. Original Potato, we see you out there. He's begging us for a shout out. So shout out to Original Potato.
Original Potato, the first potato?
What is that?
that will be somebody's alarm, actually.
Yeah.
Don't hear it.
It's 11 o'clock because we set the alarm for the content. Sorry, Instagram, you're probably getting an earful right now, and everybody else. Excuse Jesse, he's hopping in front of the phone to go ahead and turn off an alarm.
So while Jesse's getting our Instagram reset for us, we'll get ready and start going into the fourth and fifth of these tips for hot weather EVs.
That's right.
And so the first three again, don't run the AC very much, and leave your AC plug going when you're plugged in more than when you're not plugged in. Keeping your EV battery at no more than 80% charge. That helps the battery to not get too hot as it charges. And make sure you park in the shade.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth one here, avoid the DC fast charging. Again, the DC fast charging is a type of charging. It's dumping a lot of current directly into the battery, which is generating a lot of heat inside the battery. And if it's already really hot, you're not doing your battery any favors.
Yeah. Well, luckily, as you found out in Quartzsite, the car knows.
Yes, the car knows.
And will adjust accordingly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The fifth one here is I was a little surprised at. It says monitor your tire pressure. Monitoring the tire pressure, your PSI in your tires tends to go up when the temperatures rise, and not having your tires properly pressurized could impact the overall performance of the car adversely.
And as a result, affect the battery.
As a result, affect the battery. That's right. That one, I have to admit, that one to me was kind of a stretch, because I've looked at articles in the past about, do you keep your car pressurized properly per like what's on the beam on the door per the manufacturer spec? Do you pressurize? I've heard that you should pressurize your tire all the way up to the maximum that the tire allows, and that's always printed on the sidewall of the tire. So do you do 35 pound PSI because that's what the car asks for? Do you do 55 PSI because that's what's on the sidewall of the tire? And there's plus and minuses, and the one thing I've heard that I think is probably true: if you overpressurize your tire will tend to wear out a little more quickly in the very center, because that extra air pressure is causing the tire to bulge up just that little tiny bit.
That makes sense to me. And the only thing that came to mind was, if you go to the max spec on your tires, heat expands gas.
Yep.
Air is a gas.
Yep.
Right? So if you go to the max and it gets hot out, and then you're running your tires on, what's the asphalt here in Phoenix?
Over 165 to 210 degrees.
100%. Yeah. So it's going to explode.
Yeah.
Which we'd rather not. The tires will explode.
Yeah. Your tires could explode. That's kind of an extreme case, but you notice we have a lot more blowouts here on the freeway in the summertime than we do in the wintertime.
That's true.
So I think there's something to that as well.
Yep. That's that the Arizona heat doesn't just burn our skin, it burns everything.
So I encourage you guys, keep the questions coming in. Let us know where you're coming from. And yeah, it's been great time so far.
Yeah, I've
great
enjoyed
time so far. So SAE is our next article. That's the I'm sorry, I don't remember what that stands for. Do you remember?
I don't, but Google does.
Okay,
Yeah,
so while you're looking that up on Google, SAE, that's the standard setting organization that had recently announced they were going to look at changing or standardizing and formalizing the North American charging standard, which is what the Tesla Trident connector that we've traditionally heard called, is Tesla starting to call it that. SAE yesterday put out of the press that they have unanimously voted to form a task force.
That's Society of Automotive Engineers.
Thank you very much. This task force that the Society of Automotive Engineers is putting together is going to expedite the NACS standardization process. This process usually takes no less than 12 months and can take 18 months, 24 months, or longer. And they're hoping to have a published standard out before the end of 2023.
How exciting.
That's pretty cool. That's six months. Once the standard has been set, the NACS term is likely going to be replaced. They want to call it, they're talking about the J3400
Okay.
charging standard, as opposed to the J1772 charging plug, which is what the CCS standard is known as. And then there are a couple of reasons that this process could go faster like this, and it's surprising a lot of people in the industry. First off, since NACS is talking about doing this, and they're unanimously in favor of it, putting together a task force, their processes for gaining this consensus are not as complicated as some of the international standards bodies, like the ISO, or the IEC. The process itself is just not as complicated. The other thing, though, is that the NACS connector, it's the most common connector in the United States today. This connector has been in use since 2012 when the Model S first came out. And so it exists on millions of vehicles. It exists on tens of thousands of vehicle chargers, both destination chargers and high voltage DC chargers and home chargers. And it makes up the majority of the installed base in the United States. So since these stations and cars are already UL listed, so they've had to go through underwriters' laboratories to be certified for safety as far as their electrical safety is concerned, and they've been proven to work consistently and reliably in the real world. Tesla is becoming famous for the reliability of its superchargers. Most of the questions the SAE would have about this as a standard have already been answered.
Absolutely. They have the largest and longest test pool of probably any product before it's become a standard, right? All the tests that they would have done, we've been doing on a daily basis just by living and driving, right? And charging, taking care of these vehicles.
Exactly.
Right? There's, it's probably, in my opinion, is that it's just the paperwork that needs to be done and maybe some support for the case studies or, where usually they would sit down and do a bunch of tests on this individual module. They can just go and look and see what consumers have been reporting over the years and show how, if any adjustments have been made, what those were and how they responded. And all they have to do is document it, right? What's already been done.
Exactly. So, Martin Fisher on YouTube has a great question for us as well when it comes to these chargers. He says, hello from Davos, Switzerland. Hi, Martin. Glad to have you here, and good afternoon for you. Can the NASC also deliver the 900 or 1,000 volts for future EVs? As of right now, no. However, I do know that Tesla is trying to develop higher charging capabilities, and they're using higher voltages in order to do so for the Cybertruck and for the Tesla Semi.
The Cybertruck and Semi are supposed to be up to 1,000, correct?
Yes, I believe that they're working on 1,000-volt chargers, and Tesla has been calling it their Generation 4 charger. Generation 1 was 75 kilowatts. Generation 2 doubled that to 150. Generation 3 has gone up to 250 kilowatts. They're Gen 4 chargers. They're trying to get all the way up to 1,000 kilowatts and doing that more through voltage increases than amperage increase.
That's exciting. Now, question mark, do you think that they're going to keep the same design of the Trident connector and just make it bigger?
I think they're going to try to keep the same design. Here in the United States, you look at the power lines that go down the road, especially these high power substations, and these power cables are still half inch or so, maybe closer to an inch in diameter, but they may be running 1 million to 2 million volts.
That's a good point.
And that's the thing about AC power. So if you can go higher voltage, you can keep your wire size smaller. And so I'm very hopeful that they'll be able to keep the same Trident connector, or the NACS connector, or the J3400 connector, whichever we want to call it, and be able to produce and deliver the higher electrical values.
That's very exciting. Now, you had a story earlier, and we were talking about how it took 18 months for the J1772.
Yeah, in fact, that's one of the tidbits that I had found was interesting about this whole story. When Tesla was first putting out the Model S, this is back in 2011 and 2012, they were waiting for SAE to come up with the CCS standard, or what became the CCS standard. They were actually pushing SAE to try to get that standard ratified, certified, etc., so they could put it on their cars. It had been over 18 months. SAE was nowhere close to having the standard set. They were arguing basically over how is it going to work for AC charging versus how is it going to work for DC charging. They had not decided how that was going to work yet. And Tesla got tired of that, tired of waiting, and I think they were running out of money. And so they were taking too long, and they said, you know what, we're just going to come up with our own standard. We're going to put it on our own cars. We don't care what you guys say or don't say. We'll just make sure that it works. And they came up with the Trident connector and came up with a supercharging network for that Trident connector because they knew that they had to do something themselves that was not necessarily going to conform to any standard.
Wow. It's the epitome of, okay, I'll handle it. I'll take care of it. Let me do this.
Yeah, exactly. And now here we are 10 years later, Tesla saying, hey, our stuff works so well that we're just going to license it to anybody who wants it. And nobody really took them seriously about that licensing until Ford came into the table and said, you know, I like that idea.
Wow.
Let's do that. Let's save ourselves $750 million in building out our own network and get onto Tesla's network instead.
Extremely smart on both Ford and Tesla and all the other companies that have jumped on board. That's and it's great for the consumers as well.
Yeah. You know, and there's one other thing I wanted to mention before we come off of this particular story. And another advantage that NACS has over the CCS technology, I was surprised when I heard about this in this article. NACS obviously can do DC charging, which typically your DC chargers are running 350 volts, maybe 300 amps. They can go up to about 500 volts right now, I think, and 300 amps. That's the 250 kilowatt charger. That means they can run at 277 volts. Now, here in the United States, that's a big deal. The CCS cannot, unless you have the extra 2 plugs that go to the high voltage. Your standard J1772 connector, just the little round connector, can only go up to 240 volts.
Okay.
Many commercial buildings here in the United States are designed with a 277 volt feed for all of their lighting inverters and office lighting and stuff like that. So a tremendous amount of the power that goes into these commercial buildings is at 277 volts. That means if the NACS when the NACS becomes a standard, it's going to be much less expensive to put NACS destination chargers into office buildings than it would be to put CCS chargers, because the CCS chargers are going to require some sort of high-cost transformer to step down the electricity from 277 to 240 or 208, or to step up the voltage from the 120 to 208 or 240.
That's exciting.
So it's pretty cool. And of course, since it's 277 volts and not 240 volts, the same amperage is going to give you about 15% more power.
That's excellent. There's absolutely zero reason to stick with the J1772.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Guys, where do you think this is going to go? So I'll start with either Aaron or Jesse, one of the two.
Well, I hope that other companies like Lucid jump on board. I think that this is one of the few instances where kind of like a monopoly on the market is good for the consumer and for all of the companies and for the future of infrastructure. But my ultimate thing, and we'll talk about maybe if we get to it, fusion later on, I don't think charging is going to matter in 5 to 10 years personally. But for the immediate future, I'm just glad people are jumping on the NACS bandwagon.
By all means.
Very
How
fair.
about yourself, Richard?
I'm much the same mentality as Jesse. I don't know if we're going to get to fusion that quickly. I hope so.
How dare you?
I'm cautiously optimistic. All right. But yeah, no, I totally. If I could plug an Android phone in with the same as an iPhone or have it different, there's no reason to have it separate. Right? It's no different to have it. There's no reason to have it different. I hope that everybody gets on board with the NACS, Lucid included. That way, we can. I think you made the metaphor of going to a gas station. You don't have to worry about what kind of nozzle you're using because it's the same, right? So hopefully we can do that. But to echo Jesse, I'm glad that everybody is getting on board with EVs in general and mostly the NACS too.
Yeah, I am too. I really think that like there are on some EV charging places right now, the old CHAdeMO stand. I don't know that it was ever a standard per se, but it started out in Japan. It's a plug that's about 4 inches around, about like so. That is largely going away. It was impractical, but it did deliver a nice 480 volt charge. If you went to an EV Go charger, for example, I used to do this. You would have either a CCS type charger or you would have a CHAdeMO charger, and you could choose which plug you wanted to put into your car. I think that's going to be the future as well. That most of these charging stations are simply going to have an NACS and a CCS charger, whether they're a destination or whether they're a DC fast charge, and that's how they're going to roll.
I hope so. I mean, yeah, that would make total sense. You know, you don't have gas flowing through it, so you don't need to have a separate thing for diesel versus regular, right? Or the premium or what have you. Electricity is electricity is electricity is electricity. You don't have to worry about it.
That's right. I mean, Raphael told us about that as he was driving around the world. Electricity is electricity. It kind of is what it is.
So, Aaron, what are you thinking over there?
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Deep insight.
The only thing that I kind of question is the bigger semis, because I don't know if that Tesla semi uses the Trident, and it sounds like the Cybertruck is going to have the same port as the semi. Do we know if they use a Trident connector on that Tesla semi?
I think the Tesla semi plug was super hush hush. I think that they worked pretty hard to keep it under wraps. I don't know if anything is.
Yeah, I might have to look into that
yet.
one.
I honestly don't know either. That's something I'll have to look into as well.
Yeah, so with that said, I'm wondering if we're going to see the next generation Tesla chargers coming out being, you're going to have two chargers. You're going to have like a megawatt charger on one side, and on the other side, you're going to have like the regular version 3, 2, or 1, you know what I mean? With that Trident connector.
That's a really good question. What did you find here, Richard?
Yeah, so I've got a Teslarati article showing the port, and it looks like there are 8 prongs, kind of like I mean, there isn't really anything I can compare this to. There are just 8 prongs. There's a group of 4, and then there's another group of 4, and then there's a long port, kind of like the DC fast charging J1772 things, connectors to have it on the bottom. But no, it does not look like it's going to be a Trident version. Maybe that's what's going to be on the Cybertruck too.
Well, that would be kind of interesting, because then to answer Martin's question, that would mean that the NACS standard might not be as close as we thought to the 900 or 1000 volt charging that CCS is already providing. You've already got cars that can charge at 350 kilowatts. And other manufacturers that have announced that they want to go that way. Volvo, a lot of your European cars. I know that Volvo and Polestar are both running 800 volts. Hyundai and Kia from Korea are trying to have put successfully 800 volt inputs capabilities to their charging systems. That may be part of what's holding these guys back from going from CCS to NACS. Although Volvo did already announce that they would move that direction.
There are a whole litany of things to consider in that kind of change, and I'm not going to act like I have any quantity of understanding of the variables. There are so many that I don't even know how to understand at this point, nor much less get into. So
yeah, the fun part for here, we can report the news and say whatever we want, and we don't have to know quite as much, do we?
That's right. We can just look at what's going on and comment on that.
Yes. Hey, Jesse, can you pull up the photo of those really cool little canoe EVs that went to NASA?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one sec.
While you're pulling those up, it made the news this week that there's an EV company, Canoe, that has delivered product on time. And, of course, it's these people movers going to NASA. So Canoe has put these vehicles out there, 3 of them for NASA, delivered them on time. Their job is to take astronauts from their holding station over to the actual rockets on the Artemis missions as they get going.
Mm-hmm. That's right, and I don't think it's any secret that I'm a fan of Canoe, and I like to think I'm rubbing off on the guys here, but Canoe, to be able to step up, deliver on time and in quantity, is a massive thing for a company as small as them. Right?
By all means. Yeah, by all means, because most of these companies have been more like Lucid. They tend to overpromise and underdeliver, and Rivian has had problems with that in the past, and Polestar's had problems with that in the past, and and on it goes. Ford had problems with the Lightning in the past, and Chevy has had some problems with under delivering what they promised. So to hear Canoe come out and actually get a delivery put together, done on time, I think that's an absolutely cool thing.
No, Jesse, I'm starting to think I might actually get my pickup truck.
I hope so, man. The pictures are really cool, especially with the one that's outfitted with all the camper and all that stuff out in the snow. I mean, they look good, but as we've learned with a lot of companies, it's hard to actually get to mass consumer market. This kind of niche thing here with getting a few of them delivered to NASA is really cool to see that they're applying their tech. I want to see them actually make it as a viable company, though.
Go into full production. Yeah, totally. And they have an opportunity. They've got, much like Rivian and Amazon, they have a massive contract massive for them, contract with Walmart, hopefully, with more to follow, just like this Amazon Rivian deal, where they're going to be making LDVs. And they've already delivered quite a few, if I'm not mistaken, to Walmart. So, maybe Walmart is to Canoe as Amazon is to Rivian.
That might be. Very well might be. Hey, we've got a couple comments when it comes back to the NACS standard I wanted to get to really quick. TOC, San Joaquin Valley, has joined us. And thank you. Love having you on. You're a regular contributor. Says that the NACS can deliver up to a megawatt of charging as stated in the release info that was the NACS announcement. Likewise, Mark James has said the patent says the NACS format is good for up to 1 megawatt. So that's a really good thing.
Wow.
Good news. I do want to ask the question though, what combination of voltage and amperage is getting you to a megawatt? I'm not going to presume to know that answer at this moment. That's something that maybe we'll take away and look up and come back with on this next Tuesday though.
Come back with some numbers.
Yes. And then Saleh Bandani has joined us on YouTube and says, hi. Glad to have you here.
Glad you're here.
So,
did we want to take a look, if we're wrapped up with Canoe, did you want to take a look at the interior pictures of the Cybertruck? We didn't get to that one.
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. We need to take another look at the interior pictures. We had one up earlier when you were taking a look at your computer. But again, this is kind of a recap of that earlier article. There are some pictures of the interior of the Cybertruck. If you wanted to pull up, just see that Cybertruck 2 interior picture. There you go.
Here's the first one that we had up earlier again. I'll bring up the other one in a sec.
So I wanted to point out a couple things with this. So one, you can see this steering wheel up here. The yoke is completely different, right? The normal yoke does not have that top bar.
That's right.
And we've also got that center console.
Yeah, the center console was a surprise to me when on the latest pictures. Because I don't remember seeing the two captain's chairs with the center console. I only remember seeing the Cybertruck with like the bench seat or something similar to that in the past.
And it was the same thing when Max and I were at the Peterson Auto Museum. Granted, the windows were tinted. It was a little difficult to fully see in there.
Sure.
But we saw a bench seat. We didn't see a center console at all.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. But I love it. I love that interior. I mean, who's going to do something as cool as that as Tesla?
It is an incredibly cool looking car. And, here's a passenger view of the same thing. That console is kind of an island in there, but that's what I would think you'd see. You're not going to have the stick shift or transmission or even an engine compartment that you have to deal with. So you have the ability to put more room in the cab like that. Overall, I think it's a beautiful design. I would really hate to get a rock chip in that windshield.
Oh my goodness, that would be the worst.
I would really hate to do that. And this is a Phoenix problem. This isn't an everywhere problem. What kind of windshield, the little folding windshield glass protector things that you put in your window, the manufacturers will make the auto shades that are 18 inches tall, and they'll make the ones that are 2 feet tall, and they'll make the ones that are 2.5 feet tall. And I mean, what are you going to have for an auto shade in that thing? It's going to be as tall as you.
I thought the windshield was bulletproof.
Oh, that's right.
What is that, the windshield or just the sides where they did the whole thing and accidentally broke it on stage?
I think it's all of the windows that are that way, including the windshield.
I mean, that we might need that in Arizona, especially on the I-17. I mean, I get a rock chip every time I hit that thing.
Yeah, I hear you there.
Well, that would make it even worse if it did crack. Not only do you have a windshield to replace, now you've got bullet resistant windshield to replace. That's going to be a little rough.
Well, it will be expensive.
Jimmy chimes in from TikTok. He says the console is removable.
Okay. And Jiminy Stack would definitely know if this is I don't know if this is Jiminy or not, or just Jimmy. Removable console, that would be way cool as well. That way, if you need to haul some big stuff. TOC San Joaquin Valley has also chimed in. The Cybertruck is no longer possible due to the giant monitor and airbag safety standards that would tarnish the 5-star safety rating of all Teslas. That makes a lot of sense.
I see a massive opportunity for aftermarket bench seats.
Sure, I could see that as well. Well, hey guys, we're getting close to our hour and a half here.
Yes, we are.
So I think it's a good time to wrap things up. Plus, my little computer here, I am on battery, and I am almost out of battery.
It's ready to go.
Really quick, Jimmy on TikTok, he says the windows are bulletproof, the main window is not. So
okay,
there's an update on that.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Okay.
I really appreciate it. Oh, look at that. Perfect timing. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Yeah. We will be here next week, 10 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time, Mountain Standard Time. Wednesday will be the Roadster Roundtable podcast. Victor will be joining me. We'll be taking some time to go through some of the things that Gruber Motors does as it works its magic to keep the Roadsters on the road. And then next Thursday, also at 10 o'clock, look forward to being back here with you again, Richard, as well. And thank you guys so much. This has been a great 100th episode. We appreciate all the support you guys give us.
Absolutely. As always, it flew by. Thank you guys for making this show as amazing as it is. We appreciate y'all joining us.
Take care.